Good morning and welcome to Virtual Learning, March the 20th. We are doing your certification review part two. Make sure you stay listening to this, a chance for you for some extra credit at the end of this video. So let's talk about some of the mic components. Yesterday, or the last class, we talked about the microphones themselves. Let's talk about the diaphragm. Of course, the diaphragm is the part of the microphone that actually vibrates. Now, the reason why this is significant is because that vibration changes sound into audio energy and allows it to be sent to different places. So the diaphragm, by the way, every microphone, I won't say every microphone, virtually every microphone has a diaphragm in it. We talked about connectors in class. Remember that male quarter-inch connector has three parts. Let me go over this again because I think everybody got it, but I just want to be assured that you understand the difference between balanced and unbalanced and stereo and mono. So the male quarter-inch connector has got the tip, ring, and sleeve, and that makes it stereo, that makes it balanced, and it has three connectors. Okay. A mono is unbalanced, just has two connectors. It just has the tip and the sleeve. That is a mono connector, not a stereo connector. So why use a balanced stereo connector instead of a mono unbalanced connector? It all has to do with feedback and noise and interference and static. Obviously, the three-prong connectors, the stereo connectors that are balanced with the tip, the ring, and the sleeve give you a better connection. We just talked about those advantages. Balanced cables are less susceptible to interference. They have three conductors. Unbalanced, more susceptible. They have two connectors. Okay, let's talk about the professional line signal. So let's look that up just so you make sure that we all understand what the professional line signal truly means. Okay. So there's a difference. There's a line level and then there's a mic level. Let's take a look and see how they explain that. My internet is slow today. Sorting through the definitions, blah, 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 blah. Here you see professional line level is generally thought of a signal whose level is a +4 dBu. Signal processing equipment and professional mixing consoles, examples of professional line equipment. So the question on the certification exam is going to be, what is the professional line level? And it is going to be +4 dBu. Next question that you'll see on this is the frame rate of film. That is 24 frames per second. Frames per second or FPS. The Sound Exchange is that's the company that distributes royalties on behalf of copyright owners like ASCAP, BMI, and SESAC. Now, SESAC, SESAC, is the one company they will ask you about, and we'll get into that definition a little later. You're going to need to know the definition for the term MIDI. You might remember MIDIs from the early days of computers. They were computer generated sounds. Boop, 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 boop. Let's see if we can find. Yeah, I knew you'd appreciate that singing. Let's see if we can find a MIDI sound. I don't want a MIDI sound module. I just want MIDI sound example. See if we can find something. Here we go. Here we go. This is an example of MIDI sound. Sorry, it's taking so. Remember the sound to Tetris and things like that? Okay, so there is your MIDI sound level. Okay. Musical instrument digital interface. I think the question on the certification test is going to be what is MIDI, and you'll have your different choices. We talked about the speed of sound. You remember it's 1,100 feet per second. Now listen, I'd love for you to really understand all these terms, but quite frankly, for preparation of the certification exam, just memorizing them is going to get you through. Keep in mind that the certification exam is only requiring you to have a 60 to do well. The pad attenuator lowers the level of a signal, reduces the signal without distorting distorting the wave form. Okay, basically turns down the volume without changing the waves. CSAC, that we were talking about with the royalty companies, that's the Society of European Stage Authors and Composers. So I think we've talked about performance rights organizations in the past because we answered the question of how do authors of songs get their money? The people who sing them or produce or record have to have a performance right organization collect that money for them from radio stations and places of business and things like that. And if you remember, the three are ASCAP, BMI, and then I believe the only one they're going to ask you about on the certification is CSAC, which is the European counterpart to ASCAP and BMI, which are primarily American. This is the Society of European Stage Authors and Composers. It is a performance rights organization. Remember who Jack Foley was? He's the guy who kind of came up with the sound effect techniques that we know. A matter of fact, the job of acquiring sound effects now is called a Foley artist. And that's the kind of job where you could work for, lots of companies, movie companies, TV companies, and video game companies that use Foley artists. I would hope you remember what amplitude means. That is a deviation of the alternating current. You may just know amplitude as the ability to raise or lower the volume. Frequency is something that we often misunderstand. That's the rate at which something occurs and it's repeated over and over and over again. So, for example, our radio station is at a frequency of 91.1 megahertz or 91.1 million cycles per second. That's the frequency that it is assigned to. So that sound that is transmitted through the antenna goes out at 91.1 million cycles per second. When it's received by an antenna, that antenna can then decode the 91.1 frequency cycles per second and take that audio energy to that precise frequency where it converts it into sound. I know that's pretty amazing, but that's what it is. You've probably heard the word sampling before, but what the correct definition is, that's the technique of digitally encoding music or sound and then reusing it in a composition or recording. The time component in analog audio is also called sampling, okay? Quantization will be the last thing we will go over today. That's the process of converting analog into digital. All right, let's say you have a turntable with a USB plug hooked up to your computer. You take that analog sound, record it onto your computer, and then compress it as an MP3. You have then done the process of quantization. That is converting analog audio into digital audio. All right, so there is your certification review for today. If you email me through Schoology sometime before midnight tonight, Friday, March 20th, 2020, I will take your lowest task grade and add 10 points to it. Okay? Email me and in the subject line, put plus 10 task. Let me explain that again. If you email me before midnight tonight, March 20th on Friday, through Schoology or through my school email, with the subject line plus 10 task, I will take any of your task grades and add 10 to it. Okay, that would turn a 65 that a lot of you have on your tasks you haven't passed to a 75 and help you out. It will not pass your task, okay, but it will give you 10 extra credit points in that task category. Let me also reiterate that some of you are not keeping up with this virtual learning. I got to let you know that this is not a vacation and that these assignments are due. Now, granted, the school is going to give you 10 days once we return, as of now, to turn this stuff in, and that's fine. But at that point, it then turns into a 0 if you don't turn it in. So get into a schedule. I know it's difficult, but get into a schedule of coming to class on the days we're supposed to meet class. Listen to the video that I post and do the assignments on that day. I'm only giving you maybe 2 hours, hour and a half worth of work per day. That's different than our 7-hour school day. So it would be to your advantage, okay, to keep up with this and not fall behind. All right, so there's your lesson. I will post brand new lessons next week. You are on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule next week. So you will have 3 days of lessons next week, starting on Monday when I will post your calendar and also your assignments and video for that day. Okay, have a great weekend. Email me with any questions.